Good day and welcome back to my channel. Finally getting started on the 148 scale Hawk. Going to be doing this a little bit different. Well, I don't want to say I'm doing it a little differently. I'm going to be a little bit creative with this one. Like I mentioned in the unboxing, I do want to do landing gear. And that's something that is going to require a little bit of finagling and figuring out how I want to do it. So going through here, probably gonna have to follow my thought process because that's kind of how I do stuff like this. Is I kind of think as I'm going. I did get started, and unfortunately, the very first bit of video didn't make it. I saved it off, or I dropped it, or did something, and it didn't come out. So we're going to pick up the video at the point where I have started to work on the landing gear. Now, step one is basically just starting with the bottom part of the hull, deciding which of the center line areas I wanted to drop the main front landing gear out of, and then making a little box for for basically the landing gear bay, right? So where the gear would come up. The landing gear are long, right? So they're probably twice as long as I need them to be. So I'll have to be a little creative on how I put them together. Either I'll put hinges on them to make it look like they'd come down and fold out, or something that makes it look right. But where we are going to pick up with this one is at the point where I've made the box for the bay. Now what it is, I ended up taking a 1/35 scale ammo box, just put it together. And it has, it just kind of fits just right. So we'll go ahead and we'll pick up right there. Okay, so with that hole done and this box made, I need to fill this so it looks nicer. I probably don't even have to do that because I imagine that the way I'm going to display it, no one's going to get up in there and look and see the faux wood grain, but I'll know it's there, so I'm going to do that. The next piece that I had to do was create the spot that's going to be the back landing gear. And they're going to be this big. Now, I know I have these guys, which are this huge. And I'm thinking what I might do is put something on here so that it looks like it's hinged, right? So that as this comes down, that flops out. And maybe we'll just hack that short so that I can just use this and I have to figure out how to do that because I like this piece, right? So I like that there. And doing that, right? That will give me that. Now the thing is, I feel like what's going to end up happening is I'm going to get a very narrow, very, very shallow bay here, but that's okay, again, because of the angles. If we look at the way this all goes together, I'm going to zoom this out a little bit. Yeah. So if we look at the way this all goes together, you put these together like next, right? But you then don't put it on until near the end, and you need those to lock those into the right orientation. And I feel like what we're going to see here is there's going to be the arc of that pylon go. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put these together, at least the front part. I'm not going to put the tailpiece on, and then set this in and just see what I've got. And then see what I have to build out. So that's the next steps I have to do. All right, so I don't even have to do that because this shows me. You can tell where the front and the back is because of those marks. That's where pieces get put on. So this actually goes to the back. So that goes in there. This actually is that one there. And then that goes there. And you can see how that will made up. And now you get to see what this will look like. So you're going to see that. So what I probably could do is actually
if I wanted to build a deeper trench in there, I could. Or what I can just do is just build up something right there. And I think that's the way I'm going to go about this, is actually put this in, to, like, glue these together like this. Although painting them, I'm also thinking about how to paint them, because if I recall correctly on the smaller one, painting them was better. So maybe I'm going to think about this. I need to figure out how to do this. Something I can do is mark these, though. So I can mark this one. There. So I can mark. It's faint, but it's there. All right, so now I can figure out what I'm going to do with that. So I did decide to cut into the side tanks. And what I'm going to do is build a small bay. Now right here I'm just using some sheet styrene to make a flat panel that will make the top of the landing bay. And then I can put in some other pieces. Like now that I look at how it leans in there, there's a gap between the curved part of the tank and the wall. So I'm just going to cut off a strip of this really thin styrene to cover that hole, so that when you look up in, or when you glance up in, you're going to see what looks more like a wall rather than just a big gaping hole. And that's pretty much how I'm just going to handle that, and just go through, put these pieces in place. I skip around here because I end up going off camera as I'm doing it. But you can see it fills in that hole, and it ends up looking like a bay. So now, having done that, we've got the basics for the landing bay. I think this, yeah, that's how. So that will give me the basics for landing bay. What am I talking about? The landing gear bay. So this will give me what I need for what I end up using for the landing gear, right? This can set up inside there. I can adjust how this looks. So with that where that is, what I can do is go ahead and move forward on the assembly, leave these in the parts that they are, assemble these the way they'll go, put in the landing gear near the end. So that at least does take care of the majority of what I need to do there, right? And when this goes here, I mean, essentially that work is just going to disappear, right? That's just going to not be a thing. So yeah, that's what I needed to do. I think that'll work. You know, I'm not really going for, you know, hey, we're going to get up underneath this thing with a mirror and magnifying glass, but this will give me, it'll look more realistic to me. So, all right, moving on.
Okay, so we're going to stop this video here and move on, you know, in the next one. As you can see, I kind of jumped around a little bit. I was doing a lot of thinking as I was going through, and like I said, this is kind of how I do kit bashing, scratch building, whatever you want to call it, and making it adaptations. I look at what it is and I make decisions on the fly on what looks good and what doesn't. Currently, I'm content with how the landing bays in the back are going to look. Currently, I'm not convinced it's going to stay that way. So what I am going to do, though, is now move forward with the main assembly, and we'll get to that in the next video. And when we finally get to the point where we're putting the gear together, I have a feeling there will be some last minute updates to how the landing bays go together. I have a feeling that's how we're going to get to it. By looking at how the Hawk goes together, I feel like it's going to be almost at the very tail end of the build, with some hairy brushing, something like that. So for now, that was this build. That was this part of the build, just getting started. And next week we'll get into more. So thank you very much for watching. If anybody has any hints, tips, suggestions, queries, whatever, please feel free to put them down below. I'm happy to respond. And again, just keep them respectful. And until next time, thank you. Happy modeling.